You raised the question of Jeffrey Epstein in your remarks about in the Q&A.
Well, I think he's got a problem.
What do you think the problem will be?
I don't know, but that island was really a cesspool. There's no question about it. Just ask Prince Andrew. He'll tell you about it. The island was an absolute cesspool. So,
the Clintons are friends
and he's
of
been
yours,
there
right?
for many times.
Hey guys, I hope you're all doing well and that you had a great week. To all of my house guests, come in, make yourselves at home, make yourselves comfortable. If you're passing by and you'd like to become a house guest, don't forget to hit subscribe and activate all of your notifications. I'm Chez, this is Chez M0i. Welcome to my place. Lesson 1. Be careful who you suck up to. As you may know, Piers Morgan has a book to promote, so he's doing the rounds on mainstream media. From this particular conversation, it would appear that he wants people to be ignorant of the fact that he had associations with Ghislaine Maxwell, and incidentally, he also liked to cozy up to Sarah Ferguson. You may have observed that Piers cannot go one day without mentioning Harry or Meghan's names. And his diatribe in this conversation is no different. I'm curious, why no mention of Sarah? Why is he prepared to overlook what she's done, but is more than prepared to put Andrew in the firing line? Is he upset that his good buddy Ghislaine is incarcerated? Or is he doing all he can to distance himself from her because it taints him in some way? Did he love the monarchy in the years he was trying to destroy Harry's mum? Listen to this piece and I'll let you decide.
Well, that's great, Piers and Ashley here to discuss some of the headlines. Let's start with another headline, another day, about Prince Andrew. More and more pressure is being sort of lumped onto Prince Andrew in various directions. This time it's all about the Royal Lodge. Should he be allowed to stay in the Royal Lodge, Piers? I mean, it's an extraordinary property.
Can I be honest? I don't really care about the building part of this scandal. It's a complicated setup. He's paid, I think, £7.5 million, including millions up front to cover the rent for a number of years.
For the upkeep
and so on. So that's a contractual thing, really, with the way he constructed his lease. It's not really about where he's living now. He doesn't perform any public duties and so on. He's been pretty well humiliated. The big problem with this story remains that there's been no man held accountable for any of the abuse of up to 2,000 young women. 2,000 young women. The only person who's in prison as a result of all this abuse is Ghislaine Maxwell, a woman. Epstein cheated accountability by taking his life. And with Andrew, we just don't know. Let's be clear, we do not know.
He's vehemently denied any accusation.
Well, he did, but let's remember that he did say, I want my day in court against Virginia Giuffre when she was still alive. He was going to have his day in court. I'm going to clear my name. I'm looking forward to it. And at the last minute, he caved and he paid a reported $11 million to somebody he said to Emily Maitlis in that Newsnight interview he'd never met. Now, none of that rings right, but it doesn't mean he's guilty.
Yeah.
However, we're now seeing in the US Congress a stream of leaked emails from the Epstein files. And the more that comes out, the more it is clear he did not tell Emily Maitlis the truth, particularly about the timeline of how long he stayed in touch with Epstein, which turns out to be a lot longer. And the last email was so damning. It was something like, I hope we can play together again. What does that mean? So Andrew has a lot of questions to answer. My fear is there's going to be more drip, drip, drip of these emails, and it's actually going to get a lot worse.
I would say that actually where he is living is a really big deal. And I hate to say, but I agree with you on everything
That's a good start. I'm proud of you.
that you've said so far. And obviously,
eventually agreeing with everything I said.
My main concern is obviously with Epstein's victims, and my heart is with them. And obviously, there's more that's come to light about potentially Andrew asking his security personnel to dig up dirt on her, which is a huge abuse of power. But in terms of like him staying in the Crown Estate, obviously he did pay an upfront fee, but it's very minimal, let's remember, compared to what any of us would have to pay if we were to rent that property. And I think the optics for the royal family, it doesn't look good for him to be living in royal lodges, especially it doesn't seem fair during a cost of living crisis. You know, lots of the nation are struggling to keep up with bills, to pay rent, there's homelessness. And for him just to get like no accountability, it seems like there's no accountability, no fairness, and other royals have had to move out of royal lodges for
Well, there's one thing he could do, right? Which is he could talk to the FBI, who have been investigating this for a number of years, under oath. Right? This is something he's never done. Right? If he's telling the truth, it's a big if, I think. If he is, fine, then you should have no problem, no concern in going under oath talking to the investigating authorities in America. This Epstein scandal has a long way to go.
Yeah.
You know, I spoke to Virginia Giuffre's lawyer, a guy called David Boyes, a few weeks ago on my show, Uncensored. And he said that there are a number of men there who, in his opinion, are in those files who should warrant criminal prosecution. Well, who are they? What are their names? What did they do? What are the allegations? It's all in these files, and it's just dripping out.
And it does feel like it's not going to go anywhere. No, so it's like this continuous drip feed. Surely he should just confront it head on.
And that's so damaging to the royal family.
Because he's lying.
You're King Charles.
You've got King Charles who's about to, for the first time in hundreds of years, go and meet a Pope and pray with the Pope. All these amazing things that the Crown are trying to do, that they are trying to lead by example. And yet every day they're waking up to another headline about Prince
That's the problem. And I think you saw the really uncomfortable thing recently. I think it was the Duchess of Kent's funeral. Yeah. And you saw, you know, Andrew sort of muscling his way into the front to stand next to the next King, William. And you can see how awkward William found that, because the optics of that are terrible for the royal family.
He's now said he doesn't want him at his coronation when eventually that
Well, you can't blame him, because all the attention will be on Andrew at the coronation. And you know, until Andrew actually does what he said he wanted to do, which is come clean, as he put it, have his day, go under oath and tell the truth, whatever that may be, I don't think he can hide behind, you know, why do you give $11 million to someone you've never met? None of it makes any sense. It doesn't mean he's guilty, but it doesn't make any sense. And I think the British public are like, come on, there's something wrong about it.
I think more to the point, because if this happened to anyone else, like the British public, there would have to be accountability. And it does feel like the Epstein, like the protection around every involvement within the Epstein situation is it's people at the top protecting people at the top. And so the royal family shouldn't be protecting anyone within their circles either.
It's hard. I'll tell you why it's hard. If they cut him off, right?
Where does he go?
Well, A, where does he go?
Well, he can get a job like everyone
what
else.
does he then do? Does he then do a book in which he reveals a lot of damaging information? Does he go full Harry with bells on, right, and do a very damaging book telling all the stories he could tell about the inside of the royal family?
Maybe the public deserve to know that.
Well, maybe they do, but actually, if you believe in the monarchy as I do, if you like the royal family as I do, you think they bring a lot to this country. Actually, that kind of bomb scenario going off in terms of a book which caused a lot of damage. So if he's desperate and has no money and nowhere to live, and he's being ostracised and thrown out by the family, you know, there are practical realities to what the royal family can do here, which actually would not further damage the reputation of the monarchy. So they've got to be careful.
What do you think is going to happen to Maxwell now she met Donald Trump and then she got moved to a lesser prison?
prison,
Yeah.
I don't think she's going to get pardoned.
You don't think
I
Donald
don't.
Trump
I
will
think a
cry?
lot of Republicans in America, absolutely, but that's not happening. And I don't believe her account anyway of, I was an innocent victim of all this. She was thick as thieves with Epstein for a long period of time. She knew. A lot of these girl victims, the young women who've come forward, told their stories, they all say she was like the fixer for all this stuff. So that's why she's serving a 20-plus year prison sentence.
The accusations in Virginia Giuffre's book about how she was controlling Virginia Giuffre and the girls is damning.
The book is harrowing.
It's awful. When she talks about her
it's
father
gut wrenching,
as well.
and it's really of a damaged young woman who then got sort of preyed on by Epstein.
Yeah.
Who knew she was damaged, and that was his perfect kind of victim. Someone who was damaged, looking for somewhere to exist. He took her in, and like a lot of these girls, he then began the abuse, and then sharing with friends and associates and bringing these other girls in. It is a horrible scandal, but it's incredible. Not a single person other than Ghislaine Maxwell has actually been held accountable for this. Not one, not a single man. Somebody was abusing all these girls. Who are they? They're in these files, and why they've not released the whole lot in itself stinks, doesn't it?
Yeah,
very much so.
Let's move on to story number 2 now. So Nick Clegg has revealed...
We almost agreed. I mean, it's just like a little yin and yang going on.
I'm glad you
Literally,
agree, because I think it's very hard to disagree on that topic. So I'm glad to know that you do have a conscience in there somewhere.
Wow. Wow.
There's a heart. So Nick Clegg...
Lesson 2. When you don't value what you didn't pay for. As a born and bred Londoner, one of the aspects I love about my city is the historic architecture, much of which has been maintained and preserved. However, for the most part, I find that the UK royal residences are a source of second-hand embarrassment because their maintenance has largely been neglected. I was reminded of this when Harry recounted in Spare that Meghan had purchased furniture with her credit card for Nottingham Cottage, and the embarrassment that he felt when he contrasted Nottingham Cottage to his brother's apartment, both of which are in the confines of Kensington Palace. Kensington Palace, which itself is undergoing a 10-year renovation programme expected to be completed in 2027, funded apparently by the sovereign grant. Of all the UK royal residences, the most well known, Buckingham Palace, is also undergoing a 10-year £369 million resurfacing programme that began in 2017 to replace ageing electrical, plumbing and heating systems. The project is funded by a temporary uplift in the sovereign grant, whatever on earth that means. Now, in light of recent events, one royal residence that has been spotlighted is Royal Lodge in Windsor. This article is from hellomagazine.com, published on the 23rd of October 2025, and the headline reads, "Fresh photos of Prince Andrew's crumbling home revealed as he stands firm on lease. The former Duke of York remains living at his Windsor home despite public will to out him. Prince Andrew, 65, has been stripped of his royal titles. Before I continue, we already know that technically he hasn't been, so, we don't need to go over that again. For all intents and purposes, this man cannot use these titles anymore, unless Charles decides to relent and let him resume these titles at some point in the future. Leave that argument to one side. He can't use the titles, okay? But he remains living at his royal residence, Royal Lodge, rent-free. The former Duke of York has been embroiled in the Jeffrey Epstein controversy for years now, and with newly released emails putting him in further hot water, there are growing calls from members of the public for him to leave his Windsor home. He has resided there since 2004, and his lease is valid until 2078. While King Charles's brother has paid millions in repair costs since moving in, parts of the building are crumbling, as fresh photos have revealed. Pictures taken of the exterior of Royal Lodge show areas of disrepair, with crumbling paintwork and cracks evidently visible. While these images only show a number of issues, this is likely to form part of a bigger problem, with the property requiring further attention. Property expert Terry Fisher of We Buy Any Home explained to Hello that the lodge is in need of urgent restoration and these works would cost upwards of £250,000. Royal Lodge appears to be showing visible signs of ageing, including peeling paint, mould on exterior bricks, and likely underlying damp or poor insulation. These issues point to postponed maintenance that could lead to more structural damage if not addressed soon, he said. So far, Andrew has found the money to pay for the upkeep, but perhaps staying there is no longer financially viable. Why doesn't King Charles remove Prince Andrew from Royal Lodge? While the King cut off his brother financially last year, he isn't able to remove him from the property legally because there is a lease in place. This type of agreement with the Crown Estate is fairly commonplace, and in my career of writing about royal homes, I've come across multiple royals who have leased residences from the monarch. A copy of the leasehold agreement for Royal Lodge, which was obtained by the Times, revealed that while Andrew paid £1 million for the lease plus at least £7.5 million for refurbishments, which were completed in 2005, he has only paid one peppercorn, if demanded, in rent per year since 2003. Peppercorn rent is a legal term describing the symbolic payment of rent by Prince Andrew to the Crown Estate. In a special episode of a Right Royal podcast, Andrew Lowney, author of best-selling book The Rise and Fall of the House of York, predicted that Andrew could leave voluntarily. He has this ironclad lease as long as he maintains the terms of that lease, he says, before adding, "The only way I think he can go is to voluntarily go. The optics look terrible for a non-working royal in a 30-room mansion. And he, of course, is an honourable man and he always puts the country and the monarchy first. So I hope he will do the right thing." Only pressure that could be put on him is how his daughters are treated, and maybe if the screws are put onto them in terms of their future, he might do that. This excuse for a man does not know about real work, so I expect that the funds used to pay for the initial refurbishments derived from questionable sources. Now that those questionable sources have evaporated and his big brother has strangled his cash flow, Andrew is effectively living in a standard of accommodation that William and Charles's ordinary tenants have been accustomed to for decades.
I knew there were going to be serious repercussions when Harry and Meghan left the family and became fully self-funding, and they decided and chose not to have anything to do with taxpayers' money. And in fact, when they left, they were asked to pay back the cost of renovations on a cottage that they barely lived in, and to their shock and horror, Harry and Meghan paid everything in one go, despite the other side offering a payment plan, because Harry and Meghan knew that it was going to be used as a stick to beat them with. There was another reason why they also asked Harry and Meghan to pay back the money, and that was because they wanted Harry and Meghan to start their life, their new life, in poverty, because they often use money to control people. So despite all that, every year the British taxpayer were quietly subsidizing a man who didn't even hold a public role anymore. So Prince Andrew's Royal Lodge apparently costs around £600,000 to maintain. He doesn't have a steady income. His business ventures, they all collapsed. His reputation is gone, and his name is still tied to the Epstein scandal. So how is this working? Who pays the gardeners? Who pays his security? Who pays the staff? Where does the money actually come from? That's what MPs want to find out. And that was blocked 20 years ago. A former Labour MP says Parliament was stonewalled when they tried to investigate. The Crown Estate, which technically manages public land, refused to explain how Andrew got that sweetheart deal. Now, after years of cover-up, of quiet, we're finally seeing the cracks in that protection wall. And why are we seeing the cracks? Because they threw Harry and Meghan under the bus. Because if one member is fair game, the other members are fair game too. But the incandescent one is too blinded with rage to realize that the scrutiny he levied on his brother and sister-in-law will be levied upon him. Yes, his uncle is caught in the crosshairs right now, but trust me, it's going to be your turn very soon, because all of you were complicit in protection. But the bigger issue for me is not Andrew. It's the system that keeps him comfortable while ordinary people like me are struggling to even pay our rent. So if the monarchy wants to be relevant, transparency isn't optional, because peppercorn isn't his rent. It's the crumbs of accountability the public keeps getting. Yeah.
Conversely, across the pond, we see that the standard of living enjoyed by the Sussexes is in a completely different league.
Today's celebrity home review is going to be a royal affair, quite literally, because love him or hate him, we are reviewing none other than Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, of course. And while I know there is a ton of hate surrounding this couple, especially Miss Meghan over here, I, for one, like her. Like, am I not supposed to? I don't know. I don't really know a whole lot about them. So just remember, this is not about them as people. This is just simply a home review. It's really not that deep. So let's get into it. Starting out, this is a nearly $30 million Montecito Mediterranean-inspired estate. They didn't buy it for $30 million. I think that they only bought it for a mere $14 million. So good for them for almost doubling their investment, more than doubling their investment. It sits on 7 acres. It's 18,000 square feet. It has 9 bedrooms and, get this, 19 bathrooms. Their beautiful pool with the hill views, the Italian cypress trees, all of the stunning ivy growing on the side of the house that I'm obsessed with. Looks like it's got lots of loungers over here and then a pergola with a dining table to the left. Here's that dining area. I think that this is beautiful. I love all the ivy growing on the pergola, and this stone kitchen is just so stunning. Honestly, the on-site playground alone would have me sold in this house if I had $14 million, of course, because what do you mean I would never have to go to the neighborhood playground again? Sold. The most unique aspect of this entire estate, in my opinion, is the tea house. This is just truly magical, and it does not seem like it would be sitting in the middle of California. And lastly, for the exterior, before we move inside, is this beautiful back patio. I mean, this is a Mediterranean style home, obviously, which is one of my favorites. So I figured I would love this, and I do. Moving inside, I just want to preface that Meghan and Harry are very private when it comes to their homes, that they haven't really shared a whole lot of the interior on their socials, but we do have the realtor photos and some on her Instagram. So this is where all of these photos are going to be coming from, one of those 2 spaces. So this is one of the main rooms in the home. I'm obsessed with these cathedral ceilings and this stone fireplace. This is so beautiful. But now it looks like Meghan has converted this room into her office. I would love to see how she has arranged the rest of the room, and I die over this table that she's using as her desk. And here is the kitchen, which I do not believe, based on her Instagram, she has touched, which I'm so happy about. I think that this kitchen is so warm. It's so inviting. It's so cozy. I love everything about it, besides maybe that double island, because that just seems like random. It's like blue. Anyway, besides that, I love the beams. I love the copper pots. I love the stone wall with the pizza oven. I love it. It looks like the home also boasts an arcade. Not sure if they kept this, but cool. And this incredible entertaining space. I really hope that they kept this because I love it. It's giving tavern vibes and I'm here for it. And lastly is one of the bedrooms. I'm not sure if this is the primary or not. I don't think so, but nonetheless, it does have French doors that look like it leads out into a balcony. Beautiful. And I'm obsessed with these little windows. They're so pretty. And of course, again, the beams on the ceiling. So
now, before I continue, I wanted to bring your attention to this post I saw on X by Sage Knows All. I am Sage. In relation to this headline from GB News, which says, Kate and William would rather have Andrew than Meghan and Harry as neighbours. And I am Sage added, Kate would rather live beside a PDF file than a black woman. Kate also found walking next to Meghan at the Queen's viewing the hardest thing she's ever had to do, but happily rode in the car with said PDF file on their way to church. Absolutely correct. It's laughable, guys. But Kate and William's view, if it's as reported, is typical of UK society in general. You'll hear me say on this channel that UK society does not value children. It has a collective disdain for children as far as I've observed. This is why you will repeatedly have cases where severely neglected children fall through the cracks of social services who claim to be so overwhelmed with cases, even though these children will have been brought to their attention as severely vulnerable. They're ignored. They can't be bothered to deal with them. So it's understandable why Kate and William would prefer to have Andrew as their neighbour. This is what they're used to. This is the type of behaviour that the higher echelons are used to. When you live in that rarefied atmosphere and you believe that your privilege gives you access to unlimited types of pleasure, hedonistic types of pleasure, with no restrictions and no one presumably watching you, of course you would rather have someone like Andrew living next door to you, because Harry and Meghan would more than likely hold you accountable. That's why they didn't like the Netflix documentary. That's why they didn't like Harry's memoir. Now, let's focus on Kate for a minute. Of course, Kate wouldn't want to live next door to Meghan. If I put my feet in Kate's shoes for a moment, why would I want to live next to a woman that exudes confidence that I could never exude? Why would I want to live next door to a woman who is self-assured and I'm not? Why would I want to live next door to a woman who, before she came along, I could hide behind the status of being the next queen, where I feel fully protected and my space is impenetrable? But now this woman comes along, making me feel inadequate. I'm trying my best to keep up with her, but I'm failing. Why on earth would I want to live next door to Meghan? It doesn't help me living next door to her. So the easier option would be to live next door to my depraved uncle-in-law. I suppose I better say allegedly here. That's the better option because Andrew apparently is harmless. Forget about the fact that I have a daughter myself who is not even yet a teenager. I'd rather have him living next door to me. This is the mentality of these people, guys. This is the mentality of these people. But let's not get it twisted. It was Harry and Meghan who left. Kate and William remain. So the very idea that this headline has any validity makes me laugh. Meghan and Harry had an option and they took that option. Kate and William are stuck here. The only thing that they can do is run people off their property for their new home because they don't want the plebs around them. The thing that seems to really irk Harry and Meghan's derangers is that Harry and Meghan have taken time to create a home for their family, which is also their workplace. Such is the media's fascination with the Sussex's domestic space that they extracted images from the Netflix documentary Heart of Invictus and performed an analysis. Let us not forget that Harry and Meghan paid for their home and its contents. None of it was taxpayer funded. They didn't have to style it according to some type of royal protocol. You don't have to be Einstein to understand that calm surroundings and safe open spaces are conducive to high levels of productivity, which is why Harry and Meghan's output, whether it's jointly or independently, philanthropic or commercial, will invariably always surpass the feeble results produced by the leftovers.
Prince Harry and Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, just got praised by Katie Couric for their extraordinary work. And honestly, she said what needed to be said. In an exclusive with Hello Magazine, Katie made it clear this isn't about image or lip service. She said they're actually doing the work, meeting families, building programs, and changing conversations around mental health. And she's right, because what the Sussexes are doing with Archwell and their parents' network isn't performative. It's consistent, it's intentional, and it's personal. They've turned their own lived experience into advocacy that moves beyond awareness. It's about prevention, community, and healing. When Meghan talks about parents losing kids to social media harm, or when Harry speaks about stigma and trauma, that's not PR. They're driven by purpose. And for Katie Couric, a veteran journalist and a mental health advocate, to publicly validate says a lot. What stands out most is how the Sussexes show up, not in headlines, but in real spaces, listening to real stories. They're connecting institutions, nonprofits, and families in a way that makes this movement sustainable, not seasonal. So while critics stay busy nitpicking, the reality is this: impact speaks louder than gossip. The work is extraordinary because it's human.
Lesson 3. Your title is not always about entitlement. We've heard about and witnessed countless times the way in which certain royal family members treat their staff and the disingenuous ways in which they awkwardly interact with the public. If you happen to have some time during the week, I would highly recommend you watch this 60 Minutes Australia interview with a member of Andrew's ex-security. The atrocious behaviour described in this interview, which was completely acceptable by the way, is the reason why the institution failed to understand Diana's completely different approach. There are numerous anecdotes that surfaced after her death about how she made unannounced visits to the houses of ordinary members of the public. And we're familiar with how fearlessly she shook the hands of HIV and AIDS patients in hospitals back in the 80s. So if only one of her children was bound to inherit these traits, it was always going to be Harry.
I don't know. Can I just video you a second to show people why she's crying? I'm sorry. You can't do that.
No airs, no graces. Just travelling on a commercial flight in economy class like a regular passenger. That's why he could only be happy with a woman who exhibited a generous spirit long before he knew of her existence. I challenge you to tell me who would supply their own wine to the events she attends. Which I happily assume, although I stand to be corrected, that Meghan received no money for.
I'm so glad you guys get to meet Courtney as well. Yeah. We've been friends since college, just so you know. And I remember seeing it on Instagram and going, is that Courtney? And they're in a minivan somewhere in South America. Yeah. Like but it's amazing when you can find what you're able to create in a small space.
Hi, everybody. So nice to see you. And I love that we're all together and we're talking about my favorite things, decorating. Although it's not even going to be decorating, it's really going to be about, it really is the family home. Like this is our family bookstore, and I love that I get to talk to my friends, my new friend, and about a book that I found as I was going through it and looking just how intentional and all about family values that this book is about. And it was just, I think there's a lot that people are going to take away from that. And I just want to have a fun conversation with, because we all love what we do and building our homes.
Lesson 4. Royal talk is often very cheap. This time last year, William boldly proclaimed in an ITV/Disney Plus documentary that we can end homelessness. In case he doesn't know, homelessness isn't coming to an end anytime soon, especially if he's only focusing on 6 regions across the UK and thinks that £500,000 per region is going to make a significant dent in the crisis. In 2018, William said he would make peace in the Middle East his lifelong project. We are in October 2025. Did any of you hear William's name entangled in the recent ceasefire in Gaza 2 years after the October 7th attacks? Did I miss that one? Did that news escape me? You can't just say you want permanent peace and think that's enough just because you're the next British king in waiting. And while her husband is making meaningless platitudes, Kate is still mumbling about her life's work in the early years space. Meanwhile, Harry makes visits when he can to the UK and Ukraine to practically and financially support his charities. Additionally, through the Archwell Foundation, both Harry and Meghan raise awareness and practically and financially support causes which prioritise the current and next generations. If you had absolutely no prior knowledge of the British royal family, you might be forgiven for reaching the conclusion that Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, and Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, were what is paradoxically referred to as working royals. However, in 2025, the institution has still managed to maintain their occultic practices as UK citizens remain bewitched into thinking we're getting the better end of this royal deal. As long as UK society remains spellbound by an archaic structure which is no longer fit for purpose, royal lessons will remain unlearned. So guys, let me take you back to the beginning of the video when I played that clip with Donald Trump speaking.
You raised the question of Jeffrey Epstein in your remarks about in the Q&A.
Well, I think he's got a problem. I mean,
what do you think the problem will be?
I don't know, but that island was really a cesspool. There's no question about it. Just ask Prince Andrew. He'll tell you about it. The island was an absolute cesspool. So,
the Clintons are friends
and he's
of
been
yours,
there
right?
for many times.
The Clintons are friends
well,
of
I
yours.
can't say friends, but I know
You're friendly. You know them.
They play at my clubs a lot. I have clubs, and everybody likes to play at my clubs.
Now, that took place at a Bloomberg event in 2015, so 10 years ago. Tatler also covered this exchange in an article published back in July 2020. People have tried to keep it hush-hush, but it's there on the internet for everyone to see. Everything is interconnected. Essentially, he threw Andrew under the bus. You know, they really think we're stupid. This is the thing. They don't want to release these files because it will be so incriminating for certain individuals. But we're not dumb. You know, we have to keep saying allegedly, allegedly. I'm fed up of that word. Okay, but allegedly, Andrew was there. Allegedly, Trump was there. Trump is trying to distance himself from everything now by gaining proximity to the royal family. We saw how he sucked up to Queen Elizabeth when he came here for a state visit before she passed, and he did it a few weeks ago. I had commented in a video I'd made around that time. Can you imagine if they were both at that state banquet, Andrew and Trump? How awkward it would be. Him throwing Andrew under the bus, he's very clumsy, because if he had intentions at that time of running for president, did he not think that he was going to run into the royal family at some stage being a head of state? Very short-sighted. And people seem to have forgotten that he criticised another member of the royal family, i.e. Kate, and I talked about it at the time, when he had made disparaging remarks about her going topless when the Paps caught her when she was on holiday with William. I think it was a year after they got married. But all of that is swept under the rug, never to be talked about. It's all hush hush. If it's Harry and Meghan that say something or do the slightest thing, you hear about it years after. For example, you ask someone, why do you hate Meghan so much? They can never give you an answer. All they can refer to is when she did that mock curtsy in the Harry and Meghan documentary. As an American, curtsying is a foreign concept. Why on earth would you curtsy to another human being? They can't even extend grace. You know, British people are renowned for having a sense of humour, but when it comes to Meghan, they can't deal with it. They can't deal with the fact that she would have a sense of humour about that. An alien concept. I'm British. I wouldn't curtsy or bow. I wouldn't. I've been in, not in front of royalty, but I've been in very close proximity to royalty. And when I first started my channel, I made it very clear that I do not worship these people. They are not a deity. They go to the toilet just like you and I. They have faults just like you and I. There is nothing special about these people. So when you talk about Kate not wanting to live next door to Meghan, they try to pit these two women against each other all the time. They are not the same. They will never be the same. Kate is too delicate. Kate is too thin-skinned. Kate needs the protection of the institution. Otherwise, she will never survive outside of it. She's too far in. She's not like Diana that, you know, was ready to forge her own path after Charles had divorced her. You know, I can't remember who filed, but from what I remember, Diana didn't want to divorce. Charles clearly did. She had to pivot and forge her own path. She had been through too much to make it defeat her. Put Kate in that same situation. If William decides that he doesn't want her anymore, this woman will not survive. She will not survive. She has nothing to fall back on. Her parents are counting on her, especially her mum. Her mum is counting on her staying in that family because her mum has invested too much for that marriage to fail. Meghan is not the same. Meghan is a very robust individual. Meghan is a very resilient individual. And sometimes, you know, even in my own life, when I know that people have thrown things at me, you know, in terms of accusations and assumptions and all of these things, false narratives that they've spun about me, I look back and I'm like, that helped me to build resilience, because when I look at their lives, they are no further forward in life than they were 30 years ago. They're still stuck. No progression, no advancement, no joy in their lives. They are as miserable as sin. And you have to look at these people with pity, because all they can do is project. Kate cannot live next door to Meghan because Meghan represents the uppity Negro. Meghan is supposed to know her place. There was no problem with Cressida Bonus. There was no problem with Chelsea Davy. I don't know whether marriage was on the cards for Harry with any of them, but those relationships were serious enough for them to be made public. No argument, no opposition, tumbleweed and crickets is what you heard, because they slotted into what was perceived to be the right fit for Harry. Harry knew what the right fit for him was. Those two women would never have survived in that family. They would never have had the courage to escape the institution. Escape to go where? Escape to go where? I believe Chelsea Davy originates from South Africa, but really escape to go where? Because why did she come here in the first place? At the end of the day, guys, The derangers, the detractors, the establishment, the media, the institution can say what they want to say about Harry and Meghan. They are set. They are set for life. And there is nothing that any of them can do about it. Okay? While Meghan and Harry are forging ahead, Kate and William are still stuck trying to figure out how they need to go forward, because they have no set path. They have no clear direction because they are being advised incorrectly. You don't have to be Einstein to realize that, because every move they make is not solid. They can't stick to anything. It's always, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And then you never hear the conclusion. It never gets over the line. The dominant class is hanging on by a very, very, very thin thread. Their position is threatened because they now understand that we are not dumb. We are not going to accept the foolishness that they keep shoving in our faces. If this Andrew situation does not seriously change the way that the royal family moves forward, nothing will. They deemed what Harry and Meghan did a disaster for the House of Windsor, and it was going to damage them irreparably. It hasn't. It hasn't damaged the royal family. What is this going to do to the royal family? If it does nothing, it will prove my point that these guys, they love being in that space of depravity and debauchery, especially when it comes to minors. That's their domain, and they don't want anyone to come and disturb their program. Am I being harsh? Yes, I am, and I don't apologise for it. Anyway, with that said, Meghan wants you to save the 28th of October. The Daily Fail and other associated tabloids are trying to speculate as to what it could be. They don't know. They think they know, but they don't. They are a waste of time. And I cannot wait for the day when these print media, digital media go the same way as the news of the world, never to be resurrected. Until then, guys, we have to put up with their nonsense. But remember, save the date, which is Tuesday, the 28th of October. I can't wait to see what Meghan's going to do. And lastly, before I go, I finally opened my teas. I tried to save them because I didn't want to run out. Guys, let me tell you, I've started off with the lemon ginger tea. I've had herbal teas in the past, and they are nothing compared to what Meghan has produced. You can actually taste what's inside the bag. It's not a weak concoction. It's, guys, if you've experienced the teas, you already know what I'm talking about. I'm so pleased with my purchase, and I will continue to support this lady in her business ventures. Don't care what anyone says. With that said, guys, if your thoughts were provoked in any way, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't yet become a house guest, don't forget to hit subscribe and activate all of your notifications. I want to take this opportunity to thank you all so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and you shall catch me in the next video.
My friend's place, this is Godmother's.
It is so beautiful.
Oh gosh, yes. I mean, they did a spectacular job with it. This is their wall of Godmothers who lit the way.
I love it.
Yeah, and you'll love the space in here. I mean, they have such a beautiful curation of fantastic books. Hi there. And the kids section upstairs is
amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
I love a kids section. What's your guilty pleasure? Are you like a thrillers?
Oh my gosh.
Trashy romance?
Well, I spend so much time reading children's books. You have 4 kids?
Yes, I do.
So, you know, our kids are 4 and 6. And so at the end of the night, I do that. And then I haven't really gotten into a book in a long time.
Mm-hmm. I know, it's hard.
Yeah,
I also
kids books,
read a lot
parenting
of
books.
children's books. Parenting, self-help.
Yeah, and then my late night indulgence now is just a lot of Duolingo. Do you ever do that? Oh, it's great.
When I can find the time, what are you Duolingoing?
I'm Duolingoing French
Yeah.
I committed to relearning it.
Oh
and
my
so,
goodness,
yeah.
I'd love to do that.
It's really fun.
So I saw that you were at the opening of this place with Oprah.
Mm-hmm.
And you talked about how bookstores felt like a safe space. Tell me
Yeah.
about that.
You know, I think bookstores, you can find your story there. You can find some version of your story or what feels true to you in it. And within all those pages, it's just such a great space for discovery. And I think that makes people feel safe.